Walking out of day one of PTR and sitting in this chair right here for about the past hour trying to record this video, I would love to talk about the Runewords that we have seen, go over the community feedback, definitely give some options for how a couple of these guys can get drastically increased to actually see some use. And every single time I try to record it, I start getting more and more heated and start getting kind of snappy. So I think I'm going to have some pretty hot takes here. Just take it with a grain of salt. Let's try to spark some discussion on the best way to change these Runewords so that when we walk into Season 3, we have a really nice addition to the collection of options for people to build. One of the major things that I'm seeing from community feedback, and I understand that this is a vocal minority, because I also, being a YouTuber, being a Twitch streamer, participating on Reddit, participating on Maxroll, get a lot of feedback from people who don't just get rushed through hell, completely skip the entire middle of the game, literally don't build a single item until they're already level 85 and they've been sitting in public chaos and bail runs. People do play this game. And not only that, a lot of people play solo self-found, hardcore, don't like or don't have the time to trade. Don't just get handouts, don't just play super meta options. There are people who play this game other than day one Blizzard Sorc tryhards. For those people, the Runeword helmets that were introduced to the game are phenomenal options. And I will go even further to say that even the day one tryhard budget Uber smiters are going to be using ground helmet. No question, it's just strictly the best option. People who actually like to see their mercenaries survive things like chaos runs as well as Travencall runs are absolutely going to throw a temper onto their mercenary as well. And then when fire damage is no longer an issue, Bulwark will easily be the best go-to helmet for your mercenary before you find a best in slot option. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying the word Rockstopper a lot. Now, let me just remind you something about Rockstopper. There's no monster in the game that you can go kill that when you kill them will give you a Rockstopper 100% of the time. It doesn't exist. That's just not how item drops work in Diablo 2. Now, that being said, there is deterministic farming strategies that you can employ, one of them being the Countess. You can choose to go build a Bulwark. You can choose to go build a Temper or a Ground. Hell, you can even choose to go build a Cure. What you can't choose is to drop a Talrash's helmet, a Rockstopper, Indariel's Visage, Vamp Gaze, etc. Anybody who looks at Bulwark and says this item isn't good enough, I don't know what a Shale, IO, and Soul Rune typically do for you in a 3-socket helmet, but none of them have ever said Life Leech, Hit Recovery, Maximum Life, Vitality, Physical Damage Reduced by, and Flat Damage Reduction. I don't know why we're living in a fantasy where this item isn't fantastic. That being said, I do think that two of the items do need something else for them to actually see use. While Cure and a Venom Ward on an Act 2 Mercenary means that while you're farming Nightmare and Dariel on your Sorceress, you could actually expect him to be able to survive the fight. That being said, the helmet outside of that and on the Immortal Sorceress just does not have a home for use. I would recommend adding a level 1 Cleansing Aura when equipped on this item, and all of a sudden you've opened up a ton of options. Considering you can run a Prayer Merc with an Insight, which will get Meditation Aura, which double dips on your prayer buff, and then also have a Cleansing Aura on that mercenary, meaning you'd get 3 times their prayer buff bonus, opens up a ton of options alone if you just do that. Hearth itself literally needs to say cannot be frozen. The issue with this helmet isn't that it's bad in any way, shape, or form. It's that Diablo 2, for whatever reason, doesn't care about cold resistance or cold damage. The scariest monster in the game for cold damage is Mephisto, and if you just stay in melee range, he doesn't hit you with his ice ball, and in any other situation, it just doesn't matter. If Hearth said cannot be frozen, and that's all you added to it right now, you would have an actual viable option that will also see its use into the early and mid-late game on a mercenary, because being able to put cannot be frozen on them without a Cham Rune is incredibly difficult. Now let's talk about what I think is the best rune word that they've added to the game, and that's Hustle in a Weapon. Hustle in a weapon, especially in a bow for Amazon with 1 point in strafe, means that within 5 to 10 seconds of walking out into your farming area, or even traveling to your farming area, like if you're doing cow runs, you will have Burst of Speed procced. The cool part about it is means you don't need to have Harmony on swap, and you can also swap out a ton of increased attack speed jewels on your primary character's build, meaning that you open up both your helmet and your armor for more damage, or Enigma. In the early game, Hustle is just a fantastic bow for an early game Amazon. It also increases the overall damage output on both Fire and Ice Maiden, because with the buff, you're able to hit your max breakpoint, considering the majority of your gear needs to have facets in it to actually do enough damage to run those builds. Even Plague and Lightning Fury Javazon get a huge buff from this because you're able to hit the max IAS breakpoint without needing 640 javelins. So all in all, I think that the Amazon is the biggest winner with the pre-buff from Hustle, as well as just using it as an early game weapon. Hustle in any other weapon for a barbarian is also a phenomenal fit. It allows you to use stronger base weapons and still hit the max IAS breakpoint that you weren't able to previously hit without using something like a Grief. What I did want to talk about quickly is a lot of the commentary that I'm seeing about the need to pre-buff and basically the idea of FOMO. There are a lot of people arguing for removing this option from the game because they personally don't want to pre-buff to min-max their character. And because it exists, they'll feel as if they need to. And because of that, we should not explore this design space in the game. If my tone and dramatic pausing didn't make it abundantly clear how I feel about that, let me state it more plainly. I don't think that the development space for any future items, runewords, or balance changes in Diablo 2 should never revolve around people feeling like they need to opt into a purely optional gameplay type. I personally don't use CTA, and this is not a weird flex. I'm just too lazy, and I also forget to rebuff, meaning I just have this expensive runeword on swap that I don't use the majority of the time, and then when I lose the buff in a pivotal moment and die, I'm confused as to why it happened. So every character that I build is built without CTA in mind, and I would argue that everyone thinks you need to pre-buff with CTA, and everybody who can afford to does. But nobody's complaining about that, but they want to complain about an option for burst of speed, which actually enables a ton of endgame builds to be able to fully realize their potential and to more easily farm scenarios where they were struggling before, because people don't want to feel like they have to do it to compete. Just remember, other than the 99 push, there's literally no competition in D2 if you're not doing PvP, and somebody having a burst of speed buff on their character doesn't impact you not having a burst of speed buff on your character. But yeah, let us have nice things and don't try to stop them from existing just because you personally would be too lazy to do it. I think it's a pretty good segue into the Hustle armor. The Hustle armor on paper is pretty cool. If you ignore the fact that you need to get the co-rune, which I will get to, it is just strictly better Twitch throw at the point where you could equip both of the items. The more I look at it, the more it just fails to actually support the gameplay style that it's trying to support. Hustle right now says when you are hard shopping for a particular base on an item, you have an option to make your time between the load-in point and that merchant that much faster. It needs to say teleport charges. It has to say teleport charges. There is no world where you use this armor at all unless it was free and you happen to be a melee character and you're already set on your resistances or you're literally doing the shopping example that I just said. You just would not use the armor. If you took out the co-rune and made it a tier rune, bare minimum, this thing immediately has some use. Faster run walk, increase attack speed, mana per kill along with hit recovery, and now it's like actually good on a starter Amazon, actually good on a starter barbarian. But as it stands right now, as a stopgap between characters having no mobility and characters having Enigma, it just doesn't succeed in that realm. Now, talking about Mosaic. Mosaic is a really interesting weapon that needs to say either 50% chance to not consume a charge so that when you use 2 of them, you will never consume your charges, meaning that you can always choose how many charges that you have and then just kick to your heart's content, always hitting, always releasing your charges, or use Dragon Claw to always be dishing out tons of Tiger Strike damage, or use Dragon Tail without needing to fully rebuff so you can go attack the next pack, etc, etc. I'm actually in the camp that Mosaic should say 100% chance to not consume your charge, so that you can actually use a good weapon in your offhand to shore up your resistances or your damage or your plus skills or whatever else the assassin typically needs. For martial arts assassins that need the 3rd charge to actually be viable, putting on one of these to say you always get that benefit of the charge, now you just need to manage always having charges, would be fine, especially at the rune price on the weapon. Right now, Mal Gull does not warrant the stats and the percentage of not consumed charge that's currently on the weapon. I'm not the only one saying this. It's not even a completely unique standpoint. I might be one of the few people pushing for, I think the weapon itself should just say you don't consume charges, because what would it hurt? Oh no, martial arts assassins are too powerful now. Said nobody ever. Like, they're already the clunkiest playstyle in the game. They need to use more skills than you have hotkeys. But yeah, I don't want to kick a dead horse, but these need something, either 50% or 100%, and then we can really open up what the martial arts assassin is capable of doing. And lastly, because honestly, Metamorphosis, the item itself, is super awesome. I love it. I love the design. I love the idea of putting in the time to pre-buff to get both bonuses. Realistically, unless you are naturally a werewolf, I don't think most people are going to worry about getting the werewolf buff, because the werebear buff is just so much more powerful. As an 8 to shockwave helmet, this thing is absolutely bananas. As an 8 to werewolf like Canthropy and Feral Rage, it's super powerful. As a +8 to fury and Feral Rage, it's also really nice. Heck, even just an 8 to rabies helmet in this thing is pretty bananas. Now here's the problem, and I'll go ahead and show you a clip from yesterday where we were exploring it on stream. I know a lot of people have come to understand this, and it's absolutely going to be fixed, but the coding that they've put in place so you can actually keep the buff while shifting between different forms had a little bit of an unforeseen consequence. Boop, 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 boop. Here we go. The mark actually looks pretty sick. Here, I'll show you. You can kind of see the like the blood pool effect around our body, and then you go and you smack stuff. I actually do a ton of damage just in bear form with nothing else going on. Honestly, I think werewolf and werebear barbarian, they're definitely not underrated, but they are super cool. Let me go ahead and turn back, because obviously we still want to be a really efficient barbarian farmer. I was using Enigma along with Arachnid Mesh and 100 FCR from Wizard Spike on the swap to teleport. Now let me go ahead and teleport and show you that.
I can't. Impossible. I can't. I can't.
Oh, weird.
Impossible.
Something's blocking me from teleporting, but I can still attack. Yeah, nothing's stopping me from attacking. I can use werebear. Huh. Let me try teleport.
I can't.
That's weird. Something buggy must be happening. Well, let me go ahead and...
I can't.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah, so... And as we close out this video, I'll just let you stare at this absolutely beautiful helmet that you now get to wear on your bow is on instead of the 4015 jewels that you used to put into it previously because of the hustle buff. Let me know what you think. I know I came into this video with a lot of energy, and it's because I'm feeling a lot of things. I really like the design space. I really think it could be better, and I just hope that when people are giving their feedback, they're thinking very critically about the entirety of the gameplay experience, as opposed to just the myopic lens of their particular way of playing the game and what they need the game to do, as opposed to what the game needs to do for everybody. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that it sheds some light on some of the concepts, and maybe it gets your brain sparking on some other potential changes that would go a long way to make these Runewords even better for the game in general. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.